We are back with our budget conversations, and this morning we have the Arts Commission. We have Jen Cole. And Jen, in a second, I'm going to let you introduce the people that you've brought with you, but in the meantime, I want to give a shout out to some of the Metro Council members who have joined us. We have Metro Council member Bill Pridemore, who is also the chair of the Metro Council budget process. We also have Council member Scott Davis back there as well. So why don't you go ahead and introduce who you brought with you, and then we'll take it from there.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. To my right, I have our board chair, Matt Fisher. To my left, our budget analyst, Ian Myers, and in the back I have Caroline Vincent, our public art director, and our community engagement director, Rebecca Barrios.
Great. Well, I know that what Talia, if she were here, would do is she would say that your current budget is $2.6 million. You also get $99,000 in grants, and you have 9 FTEs. Your budget request is a total of about 2.3.
Almost 2.3.
Yeah, 2.3. Yeah, 2.3, 2.2.
2.275.
2.75, see? There you go.
Still have some of the old finance skills.
Still clicking.
They're in a
and that
hiatus.
will include 2 new FTEs.
Yes.
So why don't you walk me through your budget request? Sure. And I think you've got it divided into 3, so let's start with that.
Sure. So we have sort of 3 categories of modifications. One is direct investments to the community, which is the largest portion. 2, staff enhancements, and then the other bucket I would consider to be capacity building things, which I think will work directly with the finance department on. So for the purposes of today, we really want to spend time talking about the staff enhancements and the community investments.
Okay.
I'll take this the staff enhancements first.
And that's the
2 FTEs.
Right.
Yes. And they're both at the same level. So the first is a media and events director. As you know, the media climate's very much changed in the last handful of years. We now manage 4 different URLs, .com and .orgs, a mobile platform, 3 community newsletters, and probably 6 half a dozen social media channels. We currently have a contract that expires for traditional PR services in July. This position would allow us to consolidate those functions and really clarify message.
So talk to me then about the fact that you have a current contract for PR.
Yeah.
So is this a cost savings? Because basically you're not going to have a contract with the PR firm anymore, so you're going to bring this in-house? So
Correct.
So this is a flat request.
Clearly, we have to pay benefits if we have a staff person, so there's a slight increase. But we also, if we were actually to pay a PR consultant what we actually need, we would be quadrupling what we're putting out right now. So this actually will, over time, be a cost savings.
Okay.
The other thing is it will save staff capacity. Right now, the PR function is spread across 5 or 6 staff people. Consolidating into 1 staff person will clarify message and really improve community service.
Okay.
The second position is more of a program development position. We've had a very large increased demand from community partners like the Juvenile Court and the library, NASA, to do community-based programming, to do outreach in neighborhoods, particularly from council members. So we really just need an additional programming person who's going to be out in the community developing programming and partnerships and really doing coaching and capacity building for artists. Since we launched the Thrive program a handful of years ago, we've worked with about 300 community-based artists, and that takes a lot of time and work in neighborhoods. So that position would really be focused on those things.
Okay. Right.
Let's take the biggest.
Let's go back to that $2 million
The $2 million request. So, and you'll see over the 3, and one, I want to appreciate and thank you for giving us the opportunity to make a 3-year budget request. And you'll see over those 3 years that the goal is to really move us closer to where we are with peer cities in terms of cultural funding. But as you know, 75% of our budget goes right back out into the community in the form of grants and other community investments. And so the $2 million request is really a request to do that. Yesterday I got off the airplane and the very first thing I heard was Phil Vassar saying, please visit Cheekwood and the Frisk Center and all these other things that make Nashville a great place. And we believe that too. And we believe that the investments we make in grants go directly to community agencies. But there's some climate things that we have to sort of adjust for that we really haven't in the last decade. So our budget from the mayor's office has been about flat for about a decade. Last year we had 118 organizations apply for ask for $7 million in requests that they're eligible for under our guidelines, and we were able to give $1.9 million. Of those, 15% were organizations that didn't even exist 10 years ago. Organizations like Southern Word that does the Poet Laureate program, organizations like Moves and Grooves that do hip hop tap dancing after school. Basically, our community is getting bigger. Our population's growing, and we want to do more to serve organizations that are working with the most vulnerable populations that don't have access to the arts. And in order to do that, the pool's got to grow, because we have a lot more people in the pool than we had a handful of years ago. Very specifically, in that same time period, our largest institutions like TPAC and the Frisk Center have continued to add programs, free after-school programs, more field trips, more work with ELL residents. So they're doing more, but their investment is basically the same. And the third factor is that we believe the cultural institutions provide a real valuable quality of life to Nashville. Just ask Councilman Syracuse what the value of the Keaton Theater is in his neighborhood, or the Belcourt to Councilman Berkeley. These provide real jobs. The $2 million we invested last year through the Metro budget generated 4,700 direct jobs. So it's job creation, as well as community pride and sort of cultural access. So we sort of believe that this investment boom, and we realize it's a large one, begins to move us closer to where we need to be competitive with peer cities, but also to really invest in things that Nashvilleians want and value.
So that would be my question to you. So if I'm somebody who's watching at home,
Yep.
and I hear that the Arts Commission wants $2 million, what is that going to get me?
We would continue to invest in a handful of things. One, basic operating support grants for organizations that are providing cultural activities in the community. That's everything from the Children's Theater all the way up to the Symphony. We would continue to broaden and invest in after-school grants and arts access grants. So last year we provided thousands of kids after-school access to the arts they would not normally have in their NASA sites in after-school with high quality.
But now NASA's coming and asking me for money too.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
Well, our money provides, the dollars we would provide directly to support artists to do those programs. So it's a twofer. We're both providing arts access in after-school space, but also providing equitable living wages to local artists. The last thing we would do is continue to explore and expand arts access to the county line, access for seniors, for veterans, people with disabilities, and continue to look at the need for festivals and sort of direct project funding in neighborhoods. We get demand all the time from council members about arts activities in their communities. How do we support the artists that live and work there, and how do we support the agencies and institutions that are headquartered there? We believe there's a triple bottom line for cultural investments. It grows quality of life, it grows jobs, and it grows access to arts and education, which I think are all your priority areas.
People are good at knowing your priorities.
I know, it's better to know my priorities when you walk in here. It makes you get a star.
I mean, the other thing I would say is that Nashville's a global city, and we must, I think, do better as our peer cities. Most of our peer cities.
Talk to me about peer cities. So when you're talking about peer cities, who are you talking about?
So I'll just take three examples. So the city of Austin gives $9 million in cultural grants on an average year.
And how do they fund it?
There's funded through recurring bed tax dollars. The city of Seattle, whose population is actually the same size as ours, just the city, not the county, funds also around $9 million. There's through a venue-based tax for on-for-profit venues that then augments nonprofit institutions. And the city of Portland, Oregon, also funds about $10 million. Theirs is through the not-so-popular property tax, but it was passed through a citizen ordinance. So the reality is almost every other city in our peer band is investing not just double, but sometimes triple what we're investing in cultural institutions, and almost all of them have come forward through both the drive to create tourist institutions, but also to create institutions that citizens love and value in their communities.
And when you talk about that $10 million number, because clearly we make other investments that aren't through the Arts Commission in some of these significant institutions that you just articulated. So does that $9 million number include the investments that they're making collectively?
No, those are just their cultural grants investments. And those grants investments, so that does not include any capital. That includes programmatic and operational support. So those other cities, and many like we are providing other capital enhancements sometimes to those institutions, but that is just their cultural spend. That doesn't also include any public art spend. Those are all separated out. And the reality is we want to work with the administration to look out for a long curve to sort of get us to a better place over a period of time in the cultural investments, and to look where there are gaps. I mean, right now we need to do more to support ELL citizens in the community, to build up those cultural activities in neighborhoods that are maybe not fully invested in. So it's not just funding the institutions that have been here for a long time. We need to do that as well. Those institutions are growing and they do great things, but it's also cultivating what Nashville's going to be as a cultural city in the next 10, 15, 20 years.
Any other additional questions?
No, we're good.
Okay. I think I'm good. Thank you. I appreciate you all taking the time to come down here and talk about this.
Absolutely.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No, just we thank you for support and continue to partner with this office any way we can.
Absolutely. It's a critical component of who we are, so I appreciate it. Thank you all. Thanks for making time.
Thank you.
Thanks.